What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. I'm also going to break down why next week is going to be very, very important for Tesla stock. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below, or use my QR code right here to sign up. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvidia stock. If you deposit $2,000, you're going to get $50 worth of the stock. Deposits $10,000 to get $300 worth of Nvidia, or deposits $50,000 to get $1,000 of free Nvidia stock. You're also going to qualify for an 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends very soon, so please check out my link down below to sign up. Anyways, as far as the market's going, Tesla's on a downtrend, making lower highs and lower lows, at least thus far. And we could draw out a channel like this, which kind of like tells us where Tesla will likely be headed, in my opinion. Every time Tesla pumps, it rejects, pumps, rejects, pumps, rejects, pumps, and rejects. So it's quite evidence that Tesla is on a downtrend. It attempted to break out yesterday only to reject again. So every pump is followed by a rejection, and there's a good chance that Tesla continues to reject. Now, despite the rejections that are coming, I do believe this is going to create another buying opportunity for Tesla to bounce very, very nicely, but we can't necessarily call a bottom yet as there's still more downside to come. When it comes to news about Tesla, we had Ross Gerber come out who said that he's using the new FSD update on the Cybertruck, and this version is a big step up from the version 13 that was not as good in his opinion. He said he's very pleased with the improved performance of FSD. However, it's continuing to have some mapping issues, which messes up the FSD in his opinion. Besides that, when it comes to the robotaxi, it is also seeing more victories in different states such as Arizona and Nevada. The good news is that they have another regulatory hurdle that's been cleared, and now Tesla can deploy their autonomous car, at least in Nevada, but it needs commercial approval before a rollout. But this is still a big improvement so far as they're continuing to expand in more areas. On top of this, for next week, I just wanted to call out that on Monday we just have minor earnings coming out. For Tuesday, we have Alibaba and Neo announcing their earnings alongside Kohl's and Best Buy. And then for Wednesday, we have very, very minor earnings. So we'll see what that leads to moving forward. There's not really much coming out. Thursday is going to be quiet because of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is going to be next week, and we'll see what happens from there. On Monday, we just have some minor manufacturing numbers coming out. On Tuesday, we have some employment data alongside PPI. And then I think we're going to see what happens with some more manufacturing numbers. On Wednesday, we essentially just have some jobs numbers, jobless claims, and such. And there's not really anything for Thursday as it's going to be a holiday. And then Friday is going to be very quiet. So that's what we're seeing so far, at least for the markets. A more quiet week next week. We may see more sideways price action, some consolidation. Right now, the market's at extreme fear, which opens the door for a potential bounce. So, how do I think this is going to end up panning out? Well, it's very, very simple. Tesla is trading in a channel. We dip, bounce, we touch the upper trend line, we reject, then we come back down to the lower one, we bounce, upper trend line rejection, lower trend line bounce, upper trend line rejection, bounce. Like we're just going back and forth and back and forth. Now, if we're bullish, you want to see Tesla try to get back above at least 420 and hold it. If we hold 420, we could be going even higher. But if we lose around 380, we could be looking for 375 and 368. I think it's going to be a bit of both in a way where we do try to bounce a little bit on Tesla to retest this upper trend line for the low 400s. But every time we touch this trend line, we keep rejecting. There's a good chance that Tesla kind of like rejects again and it continues to downtrend for 375 to 368. I think this is what Tesla will essentially be doing. There's going to be a lot of like sideways price action. We may attempt to bounce early next week, but there's a very, very good chance we reject again as Tesla could see more downside. Tesla is being affected by the overall market, especially with the uncertainty about the Fed. And simultaneously, I would like to see Tesla fill this gap here because it aligns with 368. And also 368 is significant because where my cursor is, you guys can see the line. This is resistance becoming support. Look at the previous resistance right here. It would be very, very nice if Tesla tests that. That's also very close to our 200 EMA. And that could be a very, very nice buying opportunity for another big bounce. But I still think there's downside risk as long as this gap is open, as long as we have not tested this level yet. The market still could continue to fall. SPY and the QQQ are still bearish as we're making lower highs and lower lows, but just like Tesla, we're in a channel on SPY. On the 4-hour time frame, this channel does suggest there might be some kind of like upside move. If we end up hypothetically losing 650, we're bearish. But if we could hold around here, I think SPY could try to push a little bit next week for like 665. But notice we got one, two, three, four rejections off this yellow trend line. That could cause SPY to reject again and kind of like pump and then dump. I think that's the most likely possibility. We could retest 665, which also happens to be very close to our key fib level before we end up dropping back down and continue to make new lows. So be very careful. The QQQ has a resistance, a support like this and a resistance above. I would not be surprised if the triple Q tries to go a little bit higher. We could attempt to go for this 595-ish resistance. This was previous support becoming resistance. And then we could even try to push closer to like 600 before we turn right back down and start to dip back down to 585. On the IWM Russell 2000, we could be looking for three resistances. We have 238 and 240 or above, so I think we could get closer to 240. Then we'll see if we turn back down. There's a gap to fill at 226, but I think we bounce temporarily closer to 240. And we'll see what happens after that. ES has resistance at 6650 and 6700. We could bounce for these levels, and we'll see if we turn back down. So give this the time it needs. Nvda has not Nvidia. NQ has resistance at 24,570. We'll see if that breaks for 25,000, or if we kind of pump and then turn back down. I think we test 24,600 or a little bit above that, and then we could reject once again and continue this downtrend. So be very careful as we approach these trend lines acting as our resistance. Now we're going to see if this is also like the QQQ, if we could kind of like, turn this a little bit more as we're seeing the channel kind of like expanding. So we could pump a bit before we turn back down. NQ and ES could be looking for very similar moves. On ES, it looks more like this. So I'm going to be watching this trend line as a resistance real quick. And we will see if we continue to fall. This kind of looks like a megaphone pattern. So we could try to bounce a bit before we see another downside move. Bitcoin, it's going to most likely retest 87,500 for a temporary bounce, then it could reject again. Tesla may try to rebound for once again the low 400s before it turns back down. Nvidia may also try to retest this trend line. It could retest 185 before it turns back down, but overall the trend does look more bearish to me. Just a few more. I'm going to make this video kind of quick. Apple could be looking for 272 before it turns back down. AMD, it's forming wicks here, so it typically does try to push for like 210 or so. It could even go a little higher if we break 210, but I think it bounces just a tiny bit before it turns back down. Coinbase could try to rebound back up to about 256, and we'll see if we reject. Amazon could be looking for essentially 225, and we'll see if we turn back down. Meta could slowly push for 605, so it looks like it wants to bounce a little bit, so 600 to 605 should be tested. Google could be retesting essentially 305, and then Microsoft may also consolidate before it turns back up to about 480. So with that being said, the VIX looks like it could be dipping back down to 21. I think that the market has some upside potential, especially thanks to the way we close for now. We might bounce a little bit, but then this does not mean that the trend is done with the bearishness. I think that we could bounce a little bit and then reject on SPY ends the QQQ, and then Tesla may follow the trend. I don't think the downside's done for Tesla. Look for a small bounce next week to start things off, and we'll see if we reject. And I'll keep you guys updated on all the data and pieces of news that are coming out. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening, and peace out.